A great way to help the show is to help grow the show. So forward it to a friend, somebody you know who might be interested in knowing more about Metro Detroit and some of the great things that are happening here. And thanks so much. Hello, everyone. It is a beautiful Wednesday, August 16th, 2023, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. I am Jer Stays, and joining me on the line is
Norris Howard, back after a long absence.
It feels like you have done all of the journeys, went all of the ways, flew all the planes. I guess I'll start with then where you've been.
So a little bit earlier, or late last month, I was in Toronto, or as they call it, Toronto. It was just a getaway trip, you know, just hanging out with the wife, eating a bunch of good food, traveling around the city. And I love Toronto, man. I love Toronto. It's Chicago with none of the foolishness that comes with Chicago. It's beautiful. It's like beautiful in an ugly way. It's people say that, like, you know, Chicago is the Midwestern city. I don't know, man. To me, it's Toronto, even though it's in Canada. Like, if we're gonna typify the Great Lakes by a city, Toronto, to me.
Really?
Always. Oh, yeah, man. It's the most diverse city in Canada. I think it's actually, by numbers, the most diverse city in North America. People of all walks of life, all races, all economic levels. You know, obviously, it's tough as hell to, like, buy a house there.
I mean, prices have been through the roof.
Yeah, which is a whole separate issue. But just visiting, man, it's so nice. It's so fantastic. Everything just works. The people are so nice. I love Toronto, man.
I have enjoyed Toronto every time I've been. It's a beautiful city. It reminds me of like a blend of Chicago and New York, but without trash on the streets.
Exactly. And what a lot of people don't know is they have those little islands in the lake that are kind of like their Belle Isle. It's really cool. They have a whole amusement park on there, man. It just made me feel bad, man, because I'm just like, look at all this potential that Detroit has. Like, we could literally do the exact same thing, you know, have ferries that go from, you know, Hart Plaza to Belle Isle, and then it will just be so nice. It will be so nice, but we just don't do it, man. It's just for every time I go to Toronto, I just come back home and I'm just like, man, this could do so much.
Did you know that I actually rode a ferry to Belle Isle once?
Yeah, I know that it happens. I know that it exists, but like, it's not a common thing.
Oh, no. I mean, it hasn't happened in a long time. This was around a Grand Prix a few years ago, and hopped from downtown to it was one of the coolest things. And I when I was on there, I'm like, I just wish there was the demand to do this more. There's so many parking garages and so much space down there where you could just have like a hub for that and then go to the island and then be able to have more people on the island because not everybody needs a car. Like, there's just so many things that could be really cool to make a memorable experience with that. And I love how the lessons that we can learn from other cities to tie all of that stuff together. And I think there's a lot of lessons in Toronto with diversity, with, you know, infrastructure, with all these things. I mean, one thing that is different, though, is like Toronto is the financial and like capital of the world for the entire country of Canada, which isn't as big in population as America, but still being that kind of world-class flagship city gives you certain affordances.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, you know, I'm very much so cognizant of that. But also after, like, literally, I think 3 days after I went to Toronto, I was out in Vegas for a ginormous fighting game tournament. And by fighting games, I mean like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. A lot of people on this show don't know that is actually my day gig. I'm a freelance journalist for Esports Illustrated, which, yes, it is a part of Sports Illustrated. It's their gaming arm. And I was out there in Vegas, huge tournament. I think it had about 15,000 participants and about 25 to 30,000 attendees total. And just a great time, man. A great time. Vegas is not my favorite place in the world, so I have to have a reason to go to Vegas.
What about Vegas irks you?
You know, I don't like that it's 90 at 9 a.m. The water is terrible, which is to be expected because it's a desert. But I think the biggest thing to me, and I take this for granted every time I go, is that a lot of people don't understand. All the food places close at 10 p.m. It's Vegas. It's a place where you go and you gamble and you stay up all night, and you get drunk and you do all the things, and there is nowhere to eat on the strip after 10 p.m. It's crazy.
Really?
It's insane. Like the fact that in Detroit I could go to a Coney and get like a loose burger and chili cheese fry, or there's copious amounts of IHOPs in Metro Detroit.
Or you got Hamtramck, you got Dearborn. Like a lot of places stay late over there. After a DCFC game recently, I just saw a ton of markets and other things that are open in Hamtramck where if you want to grab yourself a late bite, you can.
Exactly. And so at bare minimum, I'm expecting like, dang, is there a hookah bar somewhere where I could just get some chicken fingers? No, nowhere. You have to go off strip to get late night eats, or you have to like go get fast food, which is lame. Like with all the top class restaurants in Vegas, and you can't eat there after 10 p.m. It's silly. Most restaurants around here don't even close at 10 p.m. They close at midnight. So it's just that part of Vegas is frustrating to me. It's so frustrating to me.
So I take it there's not any lessons you take from Vegas for Detroit.
One thing with Vegas that I will say that I wish we had is, even without a car, they make it easy to get around. That's mostly because of all so many of the casinos are owned by like just two companies, I believe.
Unless you're coming from a part of California, you're probably not driving to Vegas.
Yeah, you're not driving. So the cool part about that is that, you know, all the pathways and walkways connect all the casinos. A few of them are connected by tunnel. You know, it's super easy to get around, especially if you're not as mobile as other people. I think it presents some difficulties, but it's easy to get around Vegas. So I guess that's pretty cool. I mean, it's really only one street. So
Norris, where I've been was I did not need a plane.
Oh, that's sad.
I did not need a train. I don't even think I needed an automobile, though I took one. I went to Cafe Sous Terre, the new place in Midtown over there. I want to say it's on like Forest, right there by, I want to say Third Wave Music and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
All right, top notch, man. Like underground, very cool. Like there's something about the speakeasy style of going underground for places. And of course, Castalia, sponsor of this show, has somewhat of a similar vibe with like the basement space. But Cafe Sous Terre recently opened up, and I didn't know what I was expecting, but I walk in and the place is packed, man. It is packed. Like every table, you've got people working on their stuff, college students, professionals. There is a full bar. There are like breakfasty snacks. I had this drink called the Cafe Soda, which is this espresso soda water thing with like some different syrups in it to make it very like interesting. I was just all about it. I had a meeting over there recently, had a great conversation over there. Ended up going twice in the same day because of just how the day shook out. But
nice.
What an addition to Midtown, and so great to see a place like really catch on. And it gives me a lot of hope because, you know what, there are positive stories. We've talked a little bit about to the negative about Midtown, whether it's a Starbucks or some listeners or whatever. But I think that there is a formula for making it work in Midtown. And I think that formula is about that personal connection, that like high end kind of, I don't want to say high end and expensive, but like that high touch service, that idea that the owner is there or someone connected to the owner, the vibe that is excellent, where it's welcoming and all those things. And you walk down there and you're like, man, this could be in any great city in America, this Cafe Sous Terre. And I'm just so excited that it's there. And I really enjoyed the experience. I just wanted to tell people about it.
Well, I mean, listen, it's shishi. And like, that's the cool part. Like we have lacked just shishi stuff here in the city for so long. And what's really enjoyable about it is that it's on a block where really ain't much going on. You know what I mean? Like in terms of attraction.
Yeah, you're tucked to the side of that new performing arts center that they built up, and they moved the house around the corner.
Right.
It's more of a place you walk past on the way to something else as opposed to being a destination spot.
Exactly. And it's like around the corner from like Shangri-La and the Islamic Center and former Cass Cafe and stuff. Just to kind of paint the picture of where it is for some of the listeners. But I really enjoy that that's there because for me, right, a good coffee spot is an anchor of a neighborhood, right? There's like, again, I always talk about this is like what are the 10 things a neighborhood needs in order to be a top class neighborhood? Gotta have a grocery store, you gotta have retail, you gotta have a cafe, you gotta have eateries, that kind of stuff, right? And I think since the loss of Great Lakes, a little bit further down, but since the loss of Great Lakes, they kind of didn't have that sort of, really nice shishi, come on in, get drinks, get coffee, do your work, and cool out and be where the beautiful people are, right? Like that kind of was lost. And Red Hook, because of their hours and because of it's just not hitting the same.
They don't have their liquor stuff in order yet. I think it's something where you could have two places that really draw people in. But when you're closing at 4 or 5 or something,
exactly,
it's not that same continued vibe. Like when I posted about it on social media, so much response to Cafe Sous Terre. And a big part of it was, hey, I've got options if I want to go have a drink or if I want to do non-alcoholic, if I want to stay there and do a vibe or come through. And that's the kind of thing that having both of those options, and that's what Great Lakes kind of had. And I mean, look, let's just be honest. The people from Great Lakes, what's the term? They fumbled it.
Yeah, they fumbled the bag 1,000% and shot themselves in the foot because they just didn't recognize, or let me not say didn't recognize, they were too arrogant to understand who their employee base was, who their clientele was. And by not supporting that, that particular business really ended up suffering. And so, for me, seeing Cafe Sous Terre be successful, I just think it's fantastic. I think it's great to see. And I can't wait to go myself because I am a coffee rat. Like I love a good cafe. You know me, Jer. I have been to just about every cafe in Metro Detroit that is worth going to. And I've been missing this because as a Wayne State alum, I just miss just being in Midtown for no real reason, just sitting there and just getting some work done. It just makes me feel great.
You know what? Next time we get together in person, let's do that. Let's just go over there and we'll hang out at that place.
Let's do it. Great. Now Red Hook, I want to keep calling it Great Lakes, but Red Hook is definitely big enough to be able to serve a different type of clientele, but they got to step the hours up, man. 1,000%. They got to step the hours up because closing at 4 is just terrible. Because my wife and I were actually downtown for an event not too long ago, right before I went out of town, and we were just like, oh, let's just go to Red Hook over there on where Great Lakes used to be on was the Alexandrine. They're just closed, and I was like, well, wow, great way to not make money.
Now, do you remember Hart Plaza's fountain when it worked, the Dodge fountain? Do you remember that?
Yes. I remember washing off copious amounts of alcohol as I was at movement. I remember it vividly.
Yeah, it has kind of been mostly off, sometimes on if an event pays. I think it's like a $50,000 fee or something. They could have turned it on because it's basically held together with like duct tape. But multiple reports are talking about that a $9 million upgrade to get that fountain working is coming together from federal relief funds. They're also going to do upgrades to the stairway of that whole, that monument
down towards the river, yeah.
Yeah, to commemorate the Underground Railroad that is just in bad condition. Like the last time I was in Hart Plaza, I just realized just how much work needs to be done. Like a lot of work. Like, this $9 million, it's great that it's happening, but don't think that this is going to be able to handle the whole park. Anyway, but this is good that they're doing this stairway, but also getting this fountain together. The goal is to have it working from April to October, and they want to have this done by next spring, which of course is in time for the big Super Bowl
NFL draft.
And if that's it, the NFL draft. And, if there's more funding, they want to do more with Hart Plaza. I really think this is an opportunity for a foundation or something to try to step in. I mean, maybe if people think this is the right way to use the federal dollars on one-time improvements. I mean, it's really hard to pay for programming with federal dollars like this. You really want to do stuff that, can help have more of a lasting input that doesn't add something to the budget later. But I'm really excited to see this. I mean, I remember all the old ethnic festivals when I was a kid back in the 80s. Like I think this is something that the rest of the region and the city can appreciate. And there were just so many great plans for this thing. Hart Plaza's original design was Isamu Noguchi. I actually tried to go visit the Noguchi Museum in Queens. There was a whole different vision for Hart Plaza. It had a lot more green space. This fountain was supposed to be cutting edge of the time with colors and programming. And I think 70s, 80s technology just couldn't do it. But I think with today's technology, what we know, there's just so much that's possible. I am excited to see it. I would love to see more of Hart Plaza get worked. I'd like to see a combination of public and private dollars to try to help the city along with this, because I think this is truly a regional gathering space. What do you think?
I think it's great. I think one of the things about Hart Plaza that has always been really engaging to me, first of all, is the views. Second of all, I think part of it though can be rethought. I'm happy to see that the fountain's going to be fixed. It's the centerpiece of Hart Plaza. It's the most recognizable aspect of the park. So yes, I think fixing that is cool. I personally think we should rip up all that dang on concrete and make it mostly a green space. And here's why I feel that way. Because when you look at central parks, and not the Central Park, but I'll include it. But when you look at parks that are central to a city, you think about Central Park, you think about, Hyde Park in London, you think about so many of these other parks.
Millennium, the Bean and all that.
Yeah, you think about all these types of parks that are, nestled in the center of cities. What they have is copious amounts of green space so people can sit and lounge and chill and have picnics and, festivals and all that type of stuff. That's just really hard to do with a bunch of concrete. And so most of the year, Hart Plaza just sits unused. Nobody walks around Hart Plaza. It's not inviting. And so I think rethinking the sort of brutalist nature of Hart Plaza will benefit it. And here's the thing. You still have all the concrete stuff that's underground. You still can keep all that. But I think on the surface level, just thinking about adding more green space would be intelligent. But I do want to bring up one more thing about Hart Plaza that I saw that I don't want us to do this at all. I just don't want us to do this one thing. Is that I saw that city council is potentially proposing to rename Hart Plaza, and they want to rename it after Dr. Martin Luther King. And I just want to say this to the city of Detroit and every other black city and town across America. Stop naming stuff after Martin Luther King. All right? We got so many other African-American figures, even just from the city of Detroit, but we can expand that to the state of Michigan. Like, everything does not have to be named after this one guy. And obviously, nobody's perfect. They don't want to get caught up with the problematicness. But if we look even deeper into Dr. King, he had his issues too. So we can't, it just is so unoriginal. Like, so many people we can name this park after. Like, we can name it after Malcolm X. We can name it after Betty Shabazz. We can name it after Sojourner Truth, who lived for 30 years in Battle Creek. And most people don't even know that.
And I hear all those names, but I also say that Senator Phil Hart was a giant for the civil rights movement that people just didn't know about because he's more of a quiet fellow, but he stood with Dr. King in so many ways. He was the conscience of the U.S. Senate. There's a building, the Hart Office Building in D.C. named after him. Like, I think that it's important that people learn about Phil Hart and the contributions that he made, because we have so many giants for the civil rights and social justice movement here in Detroit. If you're going to start naming things, let's make sure that everyone from Joanne Watson to you name it, gets something acknowledged. The story of Phil Hart, I mean, just go look it up. Maybe we'll do an episode on it sometime, but man, like, he's somebody who deserves some recognition as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, and listen, I get it. And when it comes to city council, I also get I get the desire to want to name our Central Park after, let's just keep it for real, name it after somebody black. City's still 80% black. I get it. But Martin Luther King is the most low-hanging fruit humanly possible when it comes to naming something after a black leader or whatever. I just think so many other people, you know, and no, this is no diss to Phil Hart or his family or any of that. You're absolutely correct. His contributions are, you know, we can't take that away. But if we are indeed going to rename it to something, I really don't want it to be Martin Luther King, because it just makes it look like we just have no reverence for the leaders that even came from Detroit or Michigan or whatever. It's just so many people, you know, even if we expand it to the arts, to sports, to science, and to all that stuff, there's so many people we can name this after. And it's just frustrating to hear that. I'm going to be honest.
Well, you know, Hart Plaza's caused a lot of people frustrations. You know, Noguchi, who was the designer, would send in letters to Coleman Young because a lot of the Hart Plaza's design was not part of that original look. A lot of Hart Plaza's current state is because of budget cuts or trying to do things on the cheap throughout the 80s and 90s. And it was not supposed to be this big thing that it was. And in fact, there were a lot of issues between the creator and the creator of the park and the city, and even with the Dodge Fountain itself and the money for the Dodge Fountain and how it came out. Like, it's been a dramatic situation, and I feel like fixing the fountain and giving the design a reset that's really focused on a great experience, I think would be huge for the city. And we really need to get away from the idea, because like looking forward, right? If we're going to talk about growing Detroit, we're going to talk about keeping Detroit great for the people who live here. It's about those experiences. People want to stay in cities that they feel good in. And Hart Plaza has the opportunity. You know, you're seeing all the work on the West Riverfront, the River Walk from like Hart Plaza all the way to the Belle Isle Bridge is about to be complete in October. That news broke. And I saw some of the pathways on my way to Belle Isle the other day. We need to focus on making Detroit the best it can be and not just about the minimum.
I agree 1,000%.
All right, with that, we are done for today. Norris Howard, so good to talk to you.
It's so good to be back. I really always have fun when I come onto the show.
As always, you can give us feedback, dailydetroit@gmail.com, 313-789-3211. Or, Norris, where can people yell at you on social media?
You can find me at Great Laker Nori. That's Great Laker Nori on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, wherever.
All right, with that, I'm Jer Stays. Thank you so much for listening to your Daily Detroit. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around town.